We are on the medial surface of the cerebral hemisphere here, and the most important band of commissural fiber, what we can see here, this is a corpus callosum, this is a rostrum, this is a genu, this is the body of the corpus callosum, this is a splenium. I repeat again: rostrum, genu, body, and splenium. And you have one more band of curved band of white fiber here. This is fornix. That is the fornix. And between the corpus callosum and the fornix, this thin sheet of neuronal tissue, this is a septum pellucidum. This is septum pellucidum. Now, fornix is a band of projectional fiber. Fornix is a band of projectional fiber coming from the hippocampus, and it is an projectional fiber coming from the hippocampus, and main termination of the fornix, it is to the mammillary body and anterior nucleus of the hypothalamus and the thalamus. Mammillary body, anterior nucleus of the hypothalamus, as well as thalamus. So these are fornix. It's a projectional fiber coming from the hippocampus. Okay, and it terminates into mammillary body mainly, and also to the other nuclei of the hypothalamus and thalamus. See, septum pellucidum, there is a corpus callosum. Now, when you come to the sulci and gyri on the medial surface, you have a parallel to the corpus callosum. You can see there is one important sulcus, that is a cingulate sulcus. What is that? Cingulate sulcus. Then between the cingulate sulcus and the corpus callosum, you have this important gyrus, cingulate gyrus. Cingulate gyrus. Deep to the cingulate gyrus, you have a band of association fiber that is called as cingulum. Cingulum is an example for association fiber of the cerebrum, and that cingulum is present deep to the cingulate gyrus. So this is a cingulate gyrus. Now outside the cingulate gyrus, in the peripheral part here, there is one more important gyrus. This is called as medial frontal gyrus. Medial frontal gyrus. Then you have a very important cortical center which controls your micturition and defecation reflex, as well as it controls the motor and sensory function of the contralateral side of the leg and foot. Controls the motor and sensory aspect of the contralateral side of the leg and foot. So this is a paracentral lobule. This gyrus is, what is that? Paracentral lobule. This is medial frontal gyrus. This is paracentral lobule. Paracentral lobule, it is supplied by anterior cerebral artery, and it is the higher center for micturition and defecation reflex, as well as for controlling the motor as well as the sensory aspect of the contralateral side of the leg and foot. So below the knee, when I say leg and foot, it is below the knee. So that is the paracentral lobule. Behind the paracentral lobule, this area, this is a precuneus. This is precuneus. And behind the precuneus, there is an important sulcus here, that is a parieto-occipital sulcus. What is that? Parieto-occipital sulcus. Behind the parieto-occipital sulcus, there is a small area, one more gyrus, that is a cuneus. What is that? Cuneus. Then after the cuneus, very important sulcus, must know sulcus, very important one. This is the calcarine sulcus. What is that? calcarine sulcus. So the pin is there on the calcarine sulcus now. Let me put two pins for the calcarine sulcus, one in the posterior part and one in the anterior part. The posterior part of the calcarine sulcus, it has area number 17, and anterior part of the calcarine sulcus, it forms an elevation in the posterior horn of the lateral ventricle that is called as calcar avis. Anterior part of the calcarine sulcus, it forms an elevation in the posterior horn of the lateral ventricle, and that elevation is called as calcar avis. And an anterior part of the calcarine sulcus, it is an example for complete sulcus. It's an example for complete sulcus. And posterior part of the calcarine sulcus, since area number 17, the primary visual area, since it is present in this long axis of the calcarine sulcus, so posterior part of the calcarine sulcus, it is an example for axial sulcus. Axial sulcus. Now the gyrus which is present below the calcarine sulcus, this gyrus, this is lingual gyrus. This is lingual gyrus, and between the parieto-occipital and calcarine, this small gyrus, what is that? Cuneus. So in the lingual gyrus and in the cuneus, you have area number 18 and 19. 18 and 19 comes here. 17 is there in the calcarine sulcus, and 18 and 19 are present on either side of the calcarine sulcus. I mean, they are present, 18 and 19, they are the visual association area. They are present in the cuneus and lingual gyrus. So this is your overall, I can say, your lingual gyrus, cuneus and calcarine sulcus. Ultimately they are concerned with the primary visual cortex as well as visual association cortex, area number 17, 18 and 19, and this whole area is supplied by PCA. PCA means posterior cerebral artery. Any injury to the calcarine sulcus, or I can say any thrombosis or any vascular lesion of involving the posterior cerebral artery, that can lead to contralateral homonymous hemianopia. That can lead to what? Contralateral homonymous hemianopia. Sometimes the macular area of so when I say contralateral homonymous hemianopia, I must take care of one more point. Sometimes that macular area, the macular area is spared, it is not affected, it is spared from the injury, because the macular area sometimes it gets a collateral circulation from MCA, middle cerebral artery. So any injury, this area is supplied by PCA, posterior cerebral artery, and any vascular injury involving the PCA, it can lead to contralateral homonymous hemianopia. So that is a calcarine sulcus, lingual gyrus, cuneus, parieto-occipital sulcus, precuneus, paracentral lobule, controlling the motor and sensory aspect of the contralateral side of the leg and foot, medial frontal gyrus, cingulate gyrus, cingulate sulcus, and one more sulcus very closely related to the upper surface of the corpus callosum, and this sulcus is called as callosal sulcus. What is that? Callosal sulcus. So that is a corpus callosum, which is the thickest and largest commissural fiber. It's an example for what? Largest commissural fiber. Fornix, it's an example for projectional fiber coming from the hippocampus. This is septum pellucidum.